Hi, this is Clive back again, and Jerry from Gem Associates, and this video is around the key tips for a successful discussion.
Thanks, Clive. I think like a lot of these topics, it's a mixture of using some little skills or tips to actually help you achieve what you want to achieve. And in the last clip, we talked about what your objective was and how to get people to take, if you like, responsibility for their own behaviour. So during the discussion, what you're really trying to do is quite a bit of letting the other person talk, as we said, much more than you. And how do you make that happen? As we said, and I would invite you to, we talked about the whole business of this pressure. Be a little bit kinder to yourself and kinder to the person. Share the pressure with the other person and take a little bit of heat off yourself. Number one, as we said, make sure you talk much less than the other person. Now, believe it or not, this is a very conscious decision. You have to actually tell yourself that you're going to do much less talking before you have the conversation and while you're in the conversation.
Well, how can you actually stop yourself in that situation? Because when you're talking, it's very easy to forget that you're supposed to stop yourself talking.
Right. Okay, I'm going to give you a little tip later in this video about a little technique to literally stop yourself talking.
Okay.
Okay? But it is a conscious decision, and too often I hear managers do at least 70% of the conversation. Tip number 2 is related to this. Ask a lot more questions than you currently do.
So by asking the question, then you've got to give people a chance to reply to you.
Correct.
So you do it by default.
Very much so. If you concentrate on asking the question and allowing the other person to answer,
yes,
it takes the onus off you.
It gives you some thinking time.
Correct.
Right, okay.
And it also helps the flow of the conversation to develop much more naturally. So again, going back to this issue of the conflict, you're decreasing the chances of a conflict happening in the first place.
Yeah.
Alright? We talked about listening more. Now, there's a lot of people out there think listening is a natural skill that we all do. What's your take on that?
Don't ask my wife that question.
We won't go there. Okay. But listening actually is hard work. Listening is something that you've got to, as I said before, you've got to discipline yourself.
I think we all listen, but we don't necessarily take on board what we're hearing.
I think what you say that we hear because we were born with 2 of these and they're still working pretty well.
Yes.
Listening is actually a mental discipline, involves the brain.
Yeah, okay.
And the brain processes words and it shuts out other ones. Okay.
So
now,
you can hear somebody but not listen to them.
You can hear the voice, but you're not actually listening to the meaning of the words.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, let me ask. It's not your fault, by the way. don't go beating yourself up, and don't people out there beating yourself up about this. I'll ask you a question. How many listening lessons did you have at school?
It wasn't on the agenda.
Correct. I'll bet you £1 though you were told on at least more than one occasion to listen.
Probably at least once a day, yes.
Correct. Okay. But nobody ever taught you how to. So that's very important. Tip number 4. Don't give your solution. Now let me elaborate on that a little bit. You probably do this without even realising you're doing it. And can you hear yourself sometimes in previous conversations when you've tried to give advice to somebody, you've used the golden line, I think you need to...
Yes, yes.
Right? You were trying to be helpful and you give the solution.
And because you're giving advice, then people hear you but don't listen to you.
Right. But sometimes they'll take that advice absolutely word for word, and guess what? It may not work. So what happens is they come back saying, well, I did what you told me to do, but it didn't actually work, and they don't own it.
The responsibility is passed back to you.
Exactly. Okay. So that brings us on to the last tip. Get their buy-in that they're going to change their behaviour, and they're going to tell you how they're going to do it.
Which is why you need to ask the questions. You need to understand what they're thinking.
Okay. So in other words, what I'm saying to you is, you're not going to give your solution. You're going to get them to tell you what they need to do to change the behaviour they're currently exhibiting, which we all know is not acceptable.
Yeah.
Alright? You got to keep remembering that, going back to the point I made, the only person that can change their behaviour is
Themselves.
correct.
You can't do it for them.
Yeah. The person opposite you is the person who's got to take on the ownership. Okay?
And if they don't understand there's a problem with their behaviour, then no matter how long you spend talking to them, they won't take that on board.
Exactly. So in the next clip, I'm going to teach you how to ask those really good key questions which will require them to do more of the talking. Okay?
Okay.
And they are fundamental.
Look forward to that.
Okay.
Okay, so
See you in the next one.
see you on the next video.